could you cheat at Monopoly?
I know I had a hotel on Boardwalk before I went into the bathroom.
But you was in there so long, when you came back, the hotel was condemned.
Primetime was not scared, to be honest. Good Times was not just another sitcom from the 1970s. It was a bold, funny, and sometimes very honest look at family life in the Chicago projects. The show followed James and Florida Evans, their 3 children, and their noisy neighbor, Willona, as they tried to survive day to day in a Chicago housing project, finding humor and love even when money was very tight. Airing on CBS from 1974 to 1979, it became groundbreaking television that TV Guide later ranked as one of the 100 greatest shows of all time. But behind the jokes and that groundbreaking storytelling, there was a lot of drama off-screen. Stars and producers fighting over the direction of the show, cast feuds that lasted for decades, and even a lawsuit that did not end happily. Today, we're counting down 15 strange facts about Good Times you probably never knew. From unexpected guest stars and behind-the-scenes fights to the real stories that inspired the Evans family. And trust us, you will not believe the feud at number 15. But first, make sure to like and subscribe because it helps us keep uncovering these TV classics to share with fans just like you. Now, let's start with
Number 1. JJ's catchphrase almost did not happen. Okay, think back to those days when you could make your friends laugh hard just by shouting one word at the perfect moment. For Good Times, that special word was dynamite.
The happiness, man. Dynamite. I dug you on the tube, man.
And it almost never made it to your TV screen. Here is the crazy part. Jimmie Walker thought the whole idea was silly. The show's director, John Rich, was completely sure it was comedy gold. And Norman Lear, the man in charge of everything, hated it. But Rich kept pushing and finally convinced everyone to let JJ say his dynamite line just one time in each episode. That was all it took to change television forever.
Hello. Aren't you glad you let your fingers do the walking? Because you got kids at dy-no-mite doing the talking.
By the time season 3 came around, the studio audience was so excited that Walker could hardly walk through the apartment door without the whole place bursting into cheers. You probably remember doing it too. Kids were shouting it on playgrounds all across America, parents were saying it at work, and suddenly, dynamite was everywhere. We are talking about t-shirts, commercials for Panasonic tape players, and yes, there was even a kids magazine called Dynamite that ran for almost 20 years. Whether that was just a coincidence or smart marketing, JJ's catchphrase had turned into a huge cultural phenomenon.
A dy-no-mite!
Walker later shared that he actually based JJ's whole style on Ed Norton from The Honeymooners, you know, Art Carney's silly sewer worker character. But it was that one explosive word that turned him into the breakout star. The Evans family was dealing with some very serious issues: poverty, illness, crime, all the real problems affecting black families in the 1970s. But let's be honest, half of America tuned in just waiting for JJ to shout that explosive catchphrase.
Number 2. The age gaps that fooled everyone. You know how some things from your childhood just do not make sense when you look back? Well, here is one that will really mess with your head. The ages of the Evans family were completely confusing, and none of us noticed at the time. On screen, James and Florida looked like they had been married for years, raising kids and handling life like any normal middle-aged couple.
I'll fix dinner. Don't worry about no dinner. Just sit down and relax. Well, Florida, it sure is good to have you home. Yeah, without a doubt. Thank you, James.
In one episode, Florida even said that James was 3 years older than her, and we all believed it. But here is the surprise. In real life, Esther Rolle was actually 19 years older than John Amos. She could have been his mother, not his wife. At the same time, John Amos was only 8 years older than Jimmie Walker and just 14 years older than Bernadette Stannis. So while he was meant to play an experienced father keeping his teenage kids under control, in real life, he was not that far away from their age at all.
What the hell, baby? I mean, it's our son's big day. He's gonna be 18. I want to give him something better than I got when I turned 18. What was that? A draft note.
But John Amos played that fatherly authority so well that we never questioned it. He had that tired, seen-it-all presence that made you believe he had lived through years of hard work in raising children. He was such a professional that he made us forget he was actually closer in age to his TV kids than to his TV wife. It really shows how good makeup and strong acting can make any story believable, even when the numbers do not make sense. Number 3, the family feud you did not see. Whether you watched Good Times when it first aired or found it later in reruns after school with a bowl of cereal, you knew the Evans family did not have it easy. They were poor, and life kept giving them problems. But what you loved was how they stayed together through everything. If he does not win first prize for talent, he is sure to win it for courage.
If he don't win first prize for talent, he's bound to win it for guts.
I'm gonna leave it up to you, Mama. Fix anything you want for my victory dinner.
You had Esther Rolle as Florida, preachy but wise. John Amos played James, trying to keep a job and keep everyone in line. Bernadette Stannis was Thelma, the smart one you either had a crush on or wanted to be like. Ralph Carter played Michael, who was always into the culture. And Jimmie Walker turned JJ's funny antics into comedy gold. Sure, they were having a hard time, but they always had each other's backs, right?
Thank you, brothers. On behalf of my sick sister and us, we'd like to say thank you for your kindness and generosity.
Well, I hate to disappoint your inner kid, but behind the scenes, some of the TV family members could barely stand each other. Here's the gossip that would have shocked you back then. Jimmie Walker said in interviews that during the whole run of the show, he basically did not talk to John Amos or Esther Rolle unless the script told him to. We are talking about seasons of awkward silence between takes. It was like they were complete strangers when the cameras were off.
We were never friends. We never talked. If you said at that time, call Esther and ask her about, I wouldn't even have her number. I couldn't have called John. I wouldn't have had his number.
And here is where it got messy. As JJ became the breakout star, I mean, every kid in America was running around and shouting, "Dynamite!"
Happy, bright, narrow man and pure dy-no-mite!
Rolle and Amos got really annoyed. They thought the writers were turning the show into the JJ Comedy Hour, full of the stereotypes they were trying to avoid. In a 1975 Ebony interview, Rolle said straight out that the show had made JJ more foolish as it went on, and called him a bad role model for young black viewers. Imagine hearing that from your TV mom. Walker felt it too. He talked about feeling left out, skipping the dressing room hangouts, and keeping to himself while watching his castmates basically pick sides. On one side were the serious, dramatic actors, and on the other was the guy everyone tuned in to see say his catchphrase. And if you want to know how deep this split really went, when Esther Rolle passed away in 1998, Jimmie Walker was the only main cast member who did not attend her funeral. Yes, it was that bad. So there you have it. The Evans family that taught us about sticking together through tough times in real life could not wait to get away from each other. Sometimes the magic only happened when someone yelled action. Number 4, the twist that changed Good Times forever. Now, if you grew up watching Good Times, there is one moment that probably still gives you chills.
Damn!
That gut-punching opening of season 4 was not just hard to watch, it was basically the show's way of dealing with some serious drama behind the scenes. You see, John Amos had already been fired after clashing with the producers. He was angry about what they had done to JJ, watching him change from a goofy big brother into what Amos saw as a walking stereotype, and he was not staying quiet about it either.
I wasn't the most diplomatic guy, like I said, in those days, and they got tired of having their lives threatened over jokes. So they said, to tell you what, why don't we kill him off and we'll all get on with our lives. Life's too short.
Esther Rolle was right there with him, publicly calling JJ a clown and a terrible role model in magazine interviews. By the end of season 4, Rolle had had enough too and left the show, leaving the Evans kids basically without parents. The writers rushed to fix things by moving Florida and her new husband to Arizona and having Willona step in as the new mother figure. But let's be honest, it just was not the same show anymore.
What is going wrong in this family? You're all coming in late, don't have your meals together anymore. You don't even see each other for days at a time. Y'all are getting on my nerves.
Rolle did come back for the final season after the producers promised to tone down the JJ antics, but the magic was gone. The show dragged to its end, a shadow of what it used to be. And here is the crazy part. Norman Lear might have fired John Amos, but apparently he could not stay angry. A few years later, Lear brought him back for 704 Hauser,
a reboot of All in the Family. So, while James Evans had one of the most shocking death moments in TV history, Norman Lear and John Amos clearly figured out how to work together again later. Number 5. Janet Jackson's sitcom roots and how she roasted them later. Before Janet Jackson took charge of her career and won a bunch of Grammys, if you know, you know. She was a good kid on Good Times, playing Penny, the sweet little girl Willona adopted to save her from an abusive home. It was serious stuff for a sitcom, and honestly, it was some of the show's best writing. Janet absolutely nailed the role, too.
Well, the truth is, I went downtown to see an old Mae West movie, and I love Mae West movies.
You could not help but fall in love with her character and laugh at her sweet crush on JJ. Fast forward to her superstar days, and Janet got the chance to revisit her Good Times roots in the most Janet Jackson way possible by totally roasting it on SNL in 2004. Picture this, Janet playing Penny again, but this time in a completely ridiculous parody that turned everything up to 11. Maya Rudolph was doing double duty as both Thelma and Willona. Tracy Morgan showed up as everyone's favorite superintendent, Bookman, and Kenan Thompson copied Florida's mannerisms perfectly. The whole sketch basically treated the Evans apartment like a disaster zone where tragedy hit every 5 minutes. They weren't wrong, that family went through more drama than a soap opera. But that is what made the parody so perfect. It showed that Good Times had become such a cultural landmark that people were still referencing it decades later. And you have to love that Janet was totally willing to make fun of her own TV past. Not every superstar would go back and laugh at where they started, but Janet knew it was all part of her story. Number 6. The Fields family's Good Times connection. Okay, here is a connection that will blow your mind if you are a child of the 80s. Remember Tootie from The Facts of Life? That adorable chatterbox? Well, years before Kim Fields was cracking jokes at Eastland Academy, both she and her real mom, Chip Fields, had multiple appearances on Good Times. Chip originally auditioned to play Thelma Evans, but did not get the part. The producers clearly liked what they saw, though, because they kept bringing her back. First, she played Rolle, one of JJ's dates in Season 2's two-part episode, JJ's New Career. Then the next season, they cast her as Penny's abusive mother in one of the show's darkest storylines.
Didn't I tell you to come straight home from school?
Yes, Mama.
But you disobeyed me, didn't you?
Talk about range, going from JJ's love interest to one of the series' most shocking villains. And Kim Fields also showed up on the show as one of Penny's classmates. So you had future Tootie and her real-life mom both making their mark on Good Times in totally different ways. It's one of those perfect, wait what, TV moments that proves just how connected the world of 70s and 80s television really was. Number 7. The guest role that changed Gary Coleman's life forever. Before he became the breakout star of Different Strokes, Gary Coleman was quietly trying out sitcom work. Norman Lear saw him in a Harris Bank commercial and thought, that kid's a star.
You can never save too much money.
You should have a Harris banker.
You should have a Hubert doll.
To prove it, Lear put Coleman into a few of his shows. On Good Times, Coleman appeared twice as Gary James. First in Season 5, Episode 24, That's Entertainment, Evans Style, and again in Season 6, Episode 5, Florida Gets a Job.
Funny little fellow.
Fresh blood.
And on The Jeffersons, another Lear show, Coleman appeared as Raymond, George's nephew, in one episode.
Hi!
Who are you?
I'm your nephew.
This was not just a quick walk-on either. Coleman was right in the middle of the episode, showing off the same wit and timing that would soon make him famous. The tests worked. Lear decided Coleman deserved a show of his own, and Different Strokes was born. Coleman didn't just star in it, he carried it, becoming one of the biggest child actors of the late 70s and 80s, and a true pop culture phenomenon. Number 8, the theme song was a 70s banger. Good time, anytime you need a payment. You know how some theme songs are just catchy and others are powerful? Good Times said, why not both? Keeping your head above water. The theme song had a gospel-style groove with lyrics that hit you in the gut and lifted you back up, usually in the same line. Temporary layoffs. Good times. Temporary layoffs. Good times. That sounds bleak, but also strangely hopeful, just like the show itself.
Written by Dave Grusin with lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman, the Good Times theme was about surviving the system and staying grounded in family. It wasn't just a catchy tune, it had a message. And who sang it? That powerful opening vocal is by Jim Gilstrap, joined by Motown's Blinky Williams. And yes, they absolutely nailed it. But here's the part that has confused people for decades. What are the actual lyrics? Even Chappelle's Show made an entire sketch about this. It's right up there with Hold Me Closer Tony Danza in the Misheard Lyrics Hall of Fame. Listen to this part and tell us what you think in the comments below. According to the DVD box set, streaming captions, and general hearsay, it's hanging in a chow line. At least that's what I always sang. But the Bergmans and series star Bernadette Stanis confirmed it. The real lyric is hanging in and jiving. So now you know the theme song's message was always about finding joy through struggle. And that's exactly what Good Times delivered every single week. Good Times! Now, since you're still here, be sure to like and subscribe. It lets us know you're enjoying this trip down memory lane. Now, let's get back to the countdown with number 9, Michael Evans was almost someone else. Before Ralph Carter became the politically outspoken Michael Evans, the role almost went to another actor. Producers first hired Haywood Nelson, who would later star as Dwayne on What's Happening.
Hey girls, gather round, listen to what I'm putting down. Hey baby, I'm your handyman.
But when they saw Broadway actor Ralph Carter, already experienced from A Raisin in the Sun, they swapped him in. The reason was that Carter had more experience performing in front of a live audience, and the producers wanted someone who could handle the pressure of a studio crowd. And get this, even a young Lawrence Fishburne was considered for the part. Imagine seeing Morpheus spouting political one-liners about Black history in the Evans living room. Once Carter was cast, the writers loaded Michael with the show's sharpest cultural commentary. He became the one pointing out racism, inequality, and politics, and the producers thought it would be easier for audiences to accept coming from a kid.
Well, why did it have to be me?
You know, son, you got a lot of smarts. It'd be a shame to waste that God-given talent in a bad school.
If God gave me talent, it was meant to be used in my own neighborhood with my own people.
Still, it made Michael one of the most unique sitcom kids of the 1970s. Even cooler, Carter, Nelson, and Fishburne all grew up together and stayed close friends long after their child actor days. 3 different paths, 3 different careers, but all still connected to those early auditions.
Number 10. Bookman was more than a building superintendent. You probably remember Nathan Bookman as the building super who was terrible at his job and always got in trouble with the Evans family in Willona. But Johnny Brown, the actor behind Buffalo Butt, was actually much more talented than his sneaky character ever showed.
8-year-old daughter thinks she's Jewish, but we won't tell her any difference because we wanted to marry a doctor.
Before Bookman, Brown was making his mark on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. You know, that wild sketch show your parents probably watched before you were born. The guy was a triple threat, a singer, dancer, and stand-up comic who had worked with legends like Sammy Davis Jr. He even had his own recording deal and could do a perfect Louis Armstrong impression.
Darling, it's so nice to have you back where you belong.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. Johnny Brown was actually considered for the role of Lamont on Sanford and Son, but he couldn't take it because he was already committed to Laugh-In. Talk about loyalty paying off in different ways. Can you imagine Fred Sanford dealing with Johnny Brown instead of Damon Wilson? Brown kept working well into the 90s and 2000s too, appearing on shows like Martin, The Wayans Brothers, and The Jamie Foxx Show. And here's a fun family connection. Brown's real-life daughter, Sharon, appeared on Good Times too, playing Fun Girl in a season 5 episode. Johnny Brown passed away in 2022 at 84, but his legacy goes far beyond those broken windows and leaky faucets. The man was a true entertainer who just happened to play one of TV's most memorable building supers, part bumbling handyman, part schemer, but always entertaining. Number 11. James Evans almost didn't exist. Here's something that could have completely changed television history. James Evans almost never made it to Good Times, and if Esther Rolle hadn't put her foot down, the whole show would have been totally different. When Florida first appeared on Ma, she was married to Henry, a firefighter, who was also played by John Amos.
I'm Henry Evans.
I'm Walter Finley. Come in.
But when Norman Lear decided to give Florida her own spinoff, his original plan was to leave out the husband entirely. He wanted Good Times to focus on a single mother struggling to raise her kids in the projects.
thinking it would be grittier and more socially important.
You live with a man for 22 years. You wake up one morning and all of a sudden he's superfly.
He created a character who showed that fathers matter, both on screen and off. John Amos passed away in 2024, but his portrayal of James Evans remains a cornerstone of television history.
We used every trick in the world to get by. You all ought to see the budget Florida has to feed us on.
Yeah, it ain't enough to make a flea let out his belt.
Number 12. Willona style was completely her own. If you watched Good Times, you know Willona Woods was by far the most stylish person in that Chicago housing project. While everyone else was just trying to get by, Willona was serving looks. Bold colors, trendy hairstyles, and enough flair to make you forget she lived in the same building as the Evans family.
I recognize the move. After my divorce, I was so low I could have milked a snake.
Willona, I don't know what you're talking about.
And here's the secret behind her amazing style. Those fabulous outfits didn't come from some TV wardrobe department. They came straight from Jonna Dubois' own closet. Instead of letting costume designers choose her clothes, Dubois basically said, "Thanks, but I've got this," and started bringing her own wardrobe to set. That personal touch made all the difference. Winona's style felt real because it really was. It was literally Jonna being herself through her character. She once said her job as Willona was to make it right, fast, and funny. And she wasn't kidding about the wigs, the hats, and everything else being a dream come true.
Isn't it true, dear? Didn't you fall down? Who does that sucker think she's fooling?
The result was TV magic. You had a character who wasn't just talking about being a confident, independent woman, she was dressing the part too, in clothes that actually showed the personality of the actress wearing them. Wanda didn't just light up every scene with her wit, she lit it up with her real, authentic style. Jeanette Dubois passed away in 2020, but her legacy lives on through Wanda's unforgettable presence. She proved that sometimes the best costume is just being yourself. Fabulous wardrobe at all. Number 13, the stars who kept coming back. For a show that spent most of its time in one cramped Chicago apartment, Good Times was like a talent magnet. Seriously, if you watch those episodes now, you'll be doing double takes at all the famous faces that wandered onto the set. We're talking about people who were either already stars or about to become huge. Jay Leno making his TV debut in 1976, Debbie Allen before fame, Carl Weathers before he was Apollo Creed, and even Boss Hogg himself, Sorrell Book, years before he was causing trouble in Hazard County. You also had Robert Guillaume, John Witherspoon, Charlotte Rae, Cheryl Lee Ralph, and a bunch of other actors you'd recognize from your favorite 70s and 80s shows. But here's where it gets really interesting. Some of these actors liked the show so much that they kept coming back as completely different characters. Louis Gossett Jr. showed up first as Thelma's older brother, then later returned as Florida's brother, Wilbert.
Hi, sis.
Theodore Wilson played both a theater owner and the unforgettable Sweet Daddy Williams.
Say, is J.J. near? Tell him that Sweet Daddy Williams is here.
And B.B. Drake also pulled double duty, playing Savannah Jones in one season and Larry Baker's mom in another. Even the artwork had celebrity connections. All those paintings J.J. was supposedly creating were actually done by acclaimed artist Ernie Barnes, whose elongated, soulful style gave the show its visual signature. His masterpiece, The Sugar Shack, now owned by Eddie Murphy, became iconic thanks to the show, and Barnes even made a cameo himself. Looking back, Good Times was like the neighborhood everyone wanted to visit, sometimes more than once.
Number 14, Lionel Jefferson co-created Good Times. Now here's something that will blow your mind. Remember Lionel Jefferson, George and Louise's son from All in the Family and the Jeffersons? Well, Mike Evans, the actor who played him, didn't just act in Norman Lear's shows. He actually helped create one of them. Evans teamed up with writer Eric Monte to pitch what would become Good Times. They sold their idea to Norman Lear, who loved the concept, but made some major changes, like bringing in Florida Evans from Ma to anchor the show.
We both slept kind of miserable, but James woke up happy.
Still, the heart of Good Times came straight from Monty and Evans's original vision. But here's where it gets complicated.
Even though Evans co-created the show, he and Monty struggled to keep creative control as the series developed. The power structure of television production meant other writers started taking the show in different directions, leaving the original creators feeling pushed aside from their own creation. Meanwhile, Evans had left his role as Lionel on the Jeffersons to focus on Good Times. Damon Evans, a completely different person, just a confusing last name, stepped in to play Lionel. When Good Times ended, Mike eventually returned to reclaim his Lionel role after Damon moved on.
What? Look, Pop, it wasn't Jenny's idea not to tell you, it was mine. Yours? That's right. And the reason why I didn't want you to know is because of the way you're acting right now.
And the reason why I didn't want you to know? It's because of the way you're acting right now. Here's a cool detail. While the Evans family's surname was pure coincidence, naming the youngest son, Michael, was actually a tribute to Mike Evans himself. So even though the creative process got messy, at least one character kept his name alive on the show he helped bring to life. Mike Evans passed away in 2006, but his contribution to television history lives on through Lionel Jefferson and the Evans family he helped create.
Number 15, the feud that didn't end well. Now here's the most heartbreaking story about Good Times, and it involves the guy who literally lived it before he wrote it. Co-creator Eric Monte didn't just imagine the Evans family struggles. He grew up in Chicago's Cabrini Green housing project and poured his real childhood into every script. Those cramped apartments, broken elevators, and the constant fight to pay rent were all part of Monte's real life that you saw on TV.
Are you a professional man?
Yes.
Working with Mike Evans, Monte created something groundbreaking, the first network sitcom centered on a black family that was actually created by black writers. And Monte wasn't a one-hit wonder either. He went on to co-create What's Happening and wrote Hi, a movie that became a cultural touchstone for an entire generation. But Good Times became his biggest heartbreak. As the show grew more popular, Monte watched Norman Lear and the other producers push him aside and turn his authentic family story into broader comedy.
You go ahead right now. There's something wrong with nothing if you don't get all A's.
I beg your pardon.
You'll have to excuse my...
He felt like they were stealing his voice and vision, turning something deeply personal into just another punchline factory. In 1977, Monte had had enough. He filed a massive lawsuit against Lear, CBS, and the producers for over $300 million, claiming they had stolen his ideas and cut him out of his own creation. The case eventually settled for about $1 million in residuals, money Monte said never came close to making up for what they had taken from him or the damage it did to his career. The wound never healed. When Norman Lear died in 2023, Monte admitted he had never forgiven the man he once trusted with his life story. It's a painful reminder that while Good Times gave us laughter and unforgettable moments, it came at a heartbreaking cost to the person who made it all possible. So, there you have it. 15 weird, wild, and sometimes heartbreaking facts about Good Times. Which facts surprised you the most, and which ones did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next trip back through TV history.